Agnes Ayres was born Agnes Eyre Henkel in April 1892 or 1898 and died in December 1940. She was an American actress who rose to fame in the silent film era. She was known for her role as Lady Diana Mayo in The Chic, opposite Rudolph Valentino. Unfortunately, she was also the plaything of Paramount Pictures' Jesse Lasky and Wallace Reed before breaking free and becoming a real estate mogul in her own right. What more could one ask of a scenario? Agnes Ayres once asked. While many women worked alongside Rudolph Valentino, Agnes was able to do so and be more critically acclaimed than the so-called Latin lover in the notable silent classic The Chic of 1921. Though known for this role, she appeared in many other silent films of the era. Her initial nickname in Hollywood was the O. Henry Girl, due to her taking roles from that American author's books. I really find that makeup and costume change my personality, she recalled, in addition to recalling that she hated some of the characters she played. She was born in Carbondale, Illinois, to Solon Augustus and Emma Henkel. She was the youngest of two children and grew up in Camden, Illinois, with an older brother named Solon William. When her father passed away, Emma remarried a farmer named Franklin Rendelman, whom she would also outlive. Ayres ended her formal education in the 8th grade when the family moved to Chicago. Though she intended to study law, her ambitions changed. Agnes started working as a bookkeeper in 1910 at the age of 18 to help support her family. While working as a bookkeeper in 1914, she was spotted by an S&A Studios Chicago director and offered a role as an extra in a film. S&A Studios was one of the premier studios in America at the time. You can learn more about their star Francis X. Bushman, the King of Hollywood, on this channel. Agnes's first confirmed role was as an uncredited extra in Charlie Chaplin's His New Job of 1915, which was shot entirely in Chicago. You can learn more about Chaplin and his muse, Marie Doro, on this channel. Inspired to act, Agnes and her mother, or her entire family, accounts differ, moved to Manhattan, where Ayres pursued an acting career. Due to her strong resemblance to actress Alice Joyce, Ayres was cast as the sibling of Joyce's character in Vitagraph's Richard the Brazen of 1917. Joyce actually recommended Ayres for the role of her sister in medieval drama Richard the Brazen, a rare instance of women overcoming personal jealousy around appearances in Hollywood. In 1918, Agnes married Army officer Frank Schuker. They would divorce in 1921, with Agnes arguing Schuker failed to financially provide for her for an entire year. Another husband appears in the record, Gerald White Wunderlich, who died in 1937. Agnes's brother was a World War I veteran, and it's possible these men served with him in the War Between Brothers of Europe. Ayres' career gained momentum when Paramount Pictures founder Jesse Lasky, 12 years her senior, took an interest in her in 1920. Lasky gave her a starring role in the drama Held by the Enemy of 1920. He lobbied for parts of her in several productions by Cecil B. DeMille. During this period, Ayres began a romance with Lasky, who was married and a devout Jew. Perhaps Lasky told Ayres he would divorce his wife, Bessie Mona Ginsburg, and leave their 3 children, but of course he never would. In 1921, Ayres shot to stardom when she was cast as Lady Diana Mayo, a cultured British heiress, with Rudolph Valentino in The Chic. Her friendship developed with Valentino, and she named her dog Tino after him. Ayres later reprised her role as Lady Diana in the 1926 sequel, The Son of the Sheik. Following the release of The Sheik, she had major roles in many other films, including The Affairs of Anatole of 1921, starring Wallace Reed, Forbidden Fruit of 1921, and DeMille's The Ten Commandments of 1923. With Lasky at the helm of her career, he directed his partner DeMille, with whom he had partnered with in 1913, to star Agnes again and again in his films, and he agreed. She starred in The Ordeal, based on the book by Somerset Maugham, who you can learn about on this channel. During the first half of the decade, Ayres was busy making 5 or 6 features a year. She co-starred with Reed in 4 films and fell in love with him. However, Wally Reed had his own demons. While en route to a location in California during the filming of The Valley of the Giants in 1919, Reed was injured in a train wreck near Arcata, California. He needed 6 stitches to close a 3-inch scalp wound. To continue filming, he was prescribed morphine for pain relief, and he soon became addicted. He continued working at a frantic pace in films that were growing more physically demanding, as Reed was expected to drive fast cars on set, and in The Affairs of Anatole, where he co-starred with Agnes, he dragged her out of a river. Reed's morphine addiction worsened, and the studios leaned on him, the so-called screen's perfect lover. In January 1923, he died from influenza in a sanatorium at the age of 31 while attempting to get clean from morphine. Before his death, he was bedridden, and Agnes insisted on visiting him at his home. She sat for hours by his bed, exclaiming she couldn't live without him. Wally had a soft spot for Agnes, and had invited her to the house he shared with his wife, Dorothea, before. But eventually the visits were too emotionally draining, and the Reeds banned Agnes from the home. This didn't work, and finally Dorothea threatened to throw acid in Agnes's face if she continued to stay. This did work. By 1923, after the death of her favorite co-star Reed, Ayres' career began to wane. She didn't want to be the kept woman of Paramount, and the end of her relationship with Jesse Lasky followed. She married Spanish-born Mexican diplomat S. Manuel Riachi in 1924, whom she had met at a party. They planned to honeymoon in Europe, as Riachi was born in Madrid. The couple had a daughter, Maria, in 1926, whose godparents were Rudolph Valentino and Pola Negri. You can learn more about Valentino and his alleged children in the videos on this channel. Our careers were so closely linked, Ayres lamented after Valentino's death. Riachi was already married to a Hawaiian woman who he then abandoned to marry Agnes, and so committed bigamy. During their marriage, Riachi tried to strangle Ayres. He abandoned her 5 times. His violence spurred nervous sweats in Ayres. They divorced in 1927, but Riachi appears to have used Agnes for her network anyway. He became a film producer and sued Ayres for custody of their only daughter in 1939, which he won when the child was 12. Before then, Ayres was the primary custodian and responsible for all child-rearing fees. Agnes was quoted as saying, "My next husband will be an American. Latin men make excellent lovers, not husbands." This is borne out in Hispanic divorce rates and babies born out of wedlock rates worldwide. Agnes's white skin made her more of a target because interracial violence repeatedly targets white women. "I don't regret marrying," Agnes said, "because it gave me my daughter. Almost since she could talk, Maria was born to be a movie star." Riachi was identified as the diplomat who would handle relations between Los Angeles and West Coast Mexican ports in 1924, and so the transition to film producer for him was quite a jump. After he attained custody of his daughter, he moved to Mexico City. He died in 1955 and doesn't appear to have remarried. Agnes used to share a dressing room with Gloria Swanson during her early acting days. Favorite Recipes of Famous Women was published in 1925 and featured Agnes's recipe for chocolate mousse. This mousse makes many servings, so it's possible Ayres was a serious entertainer in the mid-1920s. She also raised chickens and was a close friend to gossip columnist Hedda Hopper. Her only film appearance in 1926 was to reprise her role as Lady Diana in The Son of the Sheik. She was pushed to a supporting role as the mother of Sheikh Ahmed. One film in 1926, one in 1927, and two in 1928 brought her silent career to an end. She starred in a couple of low-budget, Poverty Row films in 1929 before getting a secondary role in a Frank Capra-directed film later that year, apparently making an easy transition to sound. In that film, The Donovan Affair, Agnes seemed very cool and aloof to her co-stars, almost vindictive. She seemed to be seeing a film technician and used that influence to sabotage younger actresses' sound tests. This is a far cry from Agnes's start with Alice Joyce. Agnes disappeared from the screen after The Donovan Affair, returning in 1936 to appear in 3 uncredited roles. In 1937, she had one uncredited film appearance, and her last film was a 1937 short for RKO, Morning Judge with Edgar Kennedy. Ayres invested heavily into California real estate during her rise in Hollywood. She had a realty firm in Beverly Hills, but she reinvested her earnings back into the stock market before 1929. Who told her to do this? Did she do this after receiving advice from Lasky or Riachi? In any event, she lost her fortune and real estate holdings in the Wall Street crash of 1929. But she was still earning $350 a month when many Americans starved. A rumored engagement to director Louis Milestone appeared in the gossip columns during this time. To earn money, she left acting and played the vaudeville circuit. She returned to acting in 1936, confident she could make a comeback, but unable to secure starring roles and deemed overweight, she appeared in uncredited parts and retired from acting in 1937. After her affair with Lasky ended in the early 1920s, she signed a contract with Producers Distributing Corporation, but they reneged on her 3-film contract due to an alleged weight gain on her part, whereupon she sued the company, including its vice president, the powerful Hollywood director Cecil B. DeMille, who had made so many movies starring Agnes. Agnes was pregnant at the time, and before suing, she attempted to resolve the dispute by bringing in photographs of herself and doctor's statements showing she didn't gain weight at all, but Producers Distributing Corporation didn't agree. Although she settled this suit out of court, her career was never the same. After transitioning to making low-budget movies, as well as a decade playing vaudeville shows across the country, Ayres was exhausted. It's possible she served as the inspiration for Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard, due to that character's connection to DeMille and the actress Gloria Swanson knowing Ayres and her repeated attempts to restart her career. After her retirement, Ayres became despondent and was eventually committed to a sanatorium. In 1939, she lost custody of her daughter to Riachi. She became a salon presenter in New York City. She referred to DeMille as a charming man, a man's man, a perhaps tongue-in-cheek reference to his homosexuality. DeMille's impact on the Ayres family was huge. Agnes's brother threatened to kill DeMille for what he perceived as the consistent damage to his sister's career, landing him in a psychiatric facility. Ayres raised funds for an all-female orchestra and engaged on a tour. She starred in a Vitagraph review with other former Vitagraph stars. She was buoyed up by re-releases of The Sheik in 1938. In October 1938, with all of the pressure upon her to provide for her family, she had a nervous breakdown. In November 1939, she relinquished custody of her daughter, acknowledging her own sickness to the court. Agnes died from a cerebral hemorrhage on Christmas Day 1940 at her home in Hollywood. At the age of 48, she had been ill for several weeks. Her funeral played one of her favorite songs, Pale Hands I Love. She is interred at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. In 1960, Agnes was inducted into the Hollywood Walk of Fame with a motion picture star at 6504 Hollywood Boulevard for her contributions to the film industry. Today, the Union County Historical Society of Illinois has a collection of Eyre's memorabilia. This was exhibited in 2019 in conjunction with a screening of The Chic in Cobden, Illinois. In attendance was Eyre's daughter, Maria, who had never visited Cobden before. The Union County Historical Society is located at 117 South Appleknocker in Cobden, Illinois. This is interesting because some records show Maria died in 2009 and so couldn't have attended the exhibition. In 1900, Ayres is documented as living in Cobden with her mother, who would outlive her by only 2 years, stepfather, and brother. By 1910, she was living at 4008 West Adams Street in Chicago and working as a bookkeeper. 4008 West Adams Street was likely a smart townhome at the time, but is now a ghetto. In 1930, Ayres lived at 1615 Martel Avenue in Los Angeles, which is now the Martel Royale Apartments. In 1940, she resided at 834 North Alfred Street in Los Angeles, which is now a modern duplex. Agnes's daughter, Maria Riachi, had a small part in the movie East Side, West Side of 1949.